Have you ever wanted to charge into battle, throwing giant flaming axes at your enemies? Or use a lightning hammer and smash through them, pull it back, and then hit someone in melee? Well, if you do, this is the build for you. This character build is focused on thrown weapons. This isn't normally something that's really optimal in D&D 5e. There's not a lot of great options. In fact, there's a lot of anti-synergy with a lot of good features. And this build takes a little bit to get online, but once it does, it deals great damage and has really cool control and great flavor. Now, since this style is a little bit slower, we're going to take Variant Human here as our race to really give us a boost by having that extra feat at level 1. We're going to take the Fighting Initiate feat. This gives us access to the fighter's throwing weapon style. This allows us to throw multiple weapons in one turn and gives us a bit of a damage boost to each of those thrown weapons. For our stats, we're going to want Strength to be our highest, and then Con and Dex. Throw anything we have left over in Wisdom, but we're going full Strength here. For the first 5 levels, we'll be going straight Barbarian. This gives us a lot of really great features. Barbarians get Rage, which gives them good defensive and offensive abilities. We also get Reckless Attack, and this is the first big problem we encounter in a throwing build. Reckless Attack does not work with thrown weapons. It only works with melee attacks. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to forego this a lot of the time. When they do get up close, we will be able to activate it and get a lot of great damage. But when we're ranged, we don't have to activate it and actually can give us a boost to our defensive abilities since they're not attacking us at advantage. We also take the Slasher feat, which boosts our strength, and when we hit with a slashing attack, it slows our enemies down. This is going to be really helpful to us because our range for our thrown weapons is 20 feet. So if we can slow our enemies down, it really helps us with kiting them, staying out of their range, and allowing us to continue using our thrown weapons from a distance. The biggest thing we get is our level 3 subclass, and this we're going Path of Giant. This is a new subclass that is really fun and very powerful. At 3rd level, it gives us the ability that when we rage, we can enlarge ourselves, growing to large size, and increasing our reach by 5 feet. That's really cool and helpful, and unique. We also get to add our rage damage to our thrown weapon attacks, and that is a much needed boost. Unfortunately, we still can't do our reckless attack from thrown weapons, and that would be something that would be really great here. As we go along in this subclass, we're going to get a lot of really good features that boost our thrown weapon. It doesn't quite happen for us until level 6, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. At level 5, we get extra attack, which is always great, and now we can throw 2 axes in one turn. At this level, we're going to be using 2 hand axes, and we're going to be throwing those each turn. This deals 15.3 damage per round on average, and if the enemy gets too close, we can then switch to using those hand axes for melee attacks, using our reckless attack to gain advantage on those, which will boost our damage to 17.4 damage per round. Now, this will be a common theme in the build, that our melee attacks will actually deal more damage than our ranged attacks. And that's fine. In my opinion, someone that's going to take the risk of going to the front line should get the reward of doing more damage as well. And when we are in melee, reckless attack will reduce our survivability as well, so there's a definite advantage of playing ranged. All in all, the damage that we're doing at level 5 can take out 27% of a deadly encounter all by themselves. This lands us in the average damage category. Once we hit level 6, that'll really pick up, but at level 5, we're doing average. For survivability, we actually are quite good because we have all of that barbarian HP and rage, and we're not using reckless attack. So we actually can last 1.9 rounds of intense focused fire from a deadly encounter, and that's quite good. Now we'll move on, looking at levels 6 to 9. At level 6, we'll take one more level of Barbarian. This will get us that great subclass feature from Path of Giant. It's called Elemental Cleaver, and this is where things really come online for us. When we activate Rage, we can imbue one of the melee weapons we're holding with elemental power. This means that when we attack with it, we can deal extra damage according to that element. It also gives us the amazing ability to turn it into a thrown weapon. And when we attack with that weapon, it immediately returns to us. That means when you find that amazing +2 great axe out there, you'll still be able to use it with this build, throw it, and not lose it forever. So now we can exchange those lame hand axes for giant great axes, which grow with us. Not only that, but it becomes a flaming great axe that we can throw twice around. That is amazing. And the cherry on top is you can even change out the elemental type as a bonus action. So now, Mjolnir is totally online. I can't even imagine a better path to create Thor than this. Nothing can give you that exact replica of his powers. Now we take a quick dip into Fighter. We take 3 levels into Fighter. We take the Great Weapon Master fighting style at level 1, we get Action Surge at level 2, and at 3rd we're going to go Battle Master subclass. Specifically for the Quick Throw maneuver. And this is what we're going to use all our maneuvers on. This lets us throw a weapon as a bonus action. So now, instead of 2, it's 3 giant flaming axes being hurled at your enemies each turn. Or if we Action Surge, that's 5. Right now with our thrown axes, we're dealing 40.9 damage per round. Or with our melee axe attacks, we're dealing 42.3 damage per round. This is phenomenal damage. It's taking out 50% of a deadly encounter all by yourself. For our defenses, we can last 1.8 rounds of focused fire. This is more than a ranged damage dealer can hope for to have this much survivability. If we continue our path, from 10 to 13, we'll be taking straight Barbarian again. This is the point in the Barbarian where the damage really starts petering off. It doesn't scale so well, but thanks to our subclass, we get some really good features and some good boosts to our damage as well. The Barbarian features we get is advantage on initiative rolls. This is always beneficial because we want to have our rage active as quickly as possible. We get brutal critical, and this is a poor feature. It doesn't really boost our damage at all, and for us it's even worse because we don't have a consistent source of advantage, so we're going to land criticals less often than the average Barbarian. We'll get another ASI which we'll use to boost our strength, maxing it. All of these minor features add up, but the main star here is from our subclass. We get a really cool feature called Mighty Impel. I can't imagine a better feature on a throwing build. As a bonus action, you can throw an ally or an enemy within reach up to 30 feet. This can even be up in the air. So if we target our enemies, launch them 30 feet in the air, they will then fall 30 feet, take that damage, and fall prone. It's fantastic. I should note that the enemies do get a save to resist it, but our allies, we can land them anywhere in the battlefield. This is amazing on so many levels. It's great for control. This is an area that barbarians really struggle in, but Mighty Impel really lets you play tactically with your team. It lets you control the battlefield in a way I think no other barbarian can compete with. It's also mechanically great, but the thing I love most about it is the flavor. You're just a giant, and you are hugging everything you can find. You take an enemy, whip them in the air, throw 2 flaming axes at them, they fall prone, and their speed is reduced thanks to your slasher feat. There's no way they're going to make it back to you next round. If we take that into account and look at our damage, for our ranged attacks, we can deal 46.7 damage per round, and if they come into melee, we deal 53.3. This is great damage and is taking out 40% of a deadly encounter by yourself. The percentage has dropped, and this is due to the poor scaling of the Barbarian, but it's still great damage. As for survivability, we can take 1.7 rounds of focused fire before we drop. Also very good. As we move on to level 14 to 17, we'll continue taking Barbarian. Now as we're playing this character, I'm sure one of the biggest annoyances is going to be our character's range. We only have a 20-foot range for our thrown weapons, and this can be quite the nuisance. So at this time, now that we've picked up all the feats we need, I would suggest taking the Sharpshooter feat. This is painful for me to take, because we only get access to a portion of the feat. When it comes to thrown weapons, they count as ranged weapon attacks, but not as ranged weapons. We can only take the first 2 bullet points from this feat, and cannot apply the last one, since it applies only to ranged weapons. It will boost our thrown weapon range from 20 to 60 feet. That's very significant. But the main purpose of Sharpshooter is to increase our damage, and we can't access that here, so it kinda sucks. If your DM allows third-party content, I would suggest taking a look at Matt Mercer's Thrown Arms Master feat. This is a much better feat for us, and synergizes much more with our character concept. Other features we get is an increase to our brutal critical, yay, We also get Relentless Rage, which increases our survivability a tad. Better than nothing. The big thing we get here is also from our subclass. You're probably seeing a theme here. We get the ability Demiurgic Colossus. This is taking our level 3 ability and putting it on steroids. Instead of turning large, we turn huge, and our reach extends not to 5 feet, but to 10 feet. It also doubles the damage on our elemental weapon. These are all great boosts. Now with our Great Axe, we have a melee reach of 10 feet and a thrown range of 60. This is great. I could really see people going Polearm Master and going Bugbear to get a 20-foot reach. That would be cool. At level 17, our ranged damage is going to be 52.3 damage per round. Our melee damage will be 60.1 damage per round. This means we can take out 34.4% of a deadly encounter. Again, it's dropping a little bit, but that is still high damage. The monsters at this level are seeing a boost to their damage outputs as well, so we're actually only able to survive 1.1 rounds of focused fire. Luckily for us, our range is much better and it's much easier for us to kite. We also can toss people out of melee range and keep them away from us. Super good. If we average out the damage we deal throughout our character's career, we deal 38.2% of a deadly encounter. That is a lot of damage. And in melee, it's 42.3%. For survivability, we on average can survive 1.6 rounds of focused fire. This puts us in the sturdy category. This means that we're strong enough to survive lots of hits, but we're not strong enough to take all of the hits for the party. It'll still need to be divided up. Hopefully this gives some insight into making a throwing build. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I really like the idea of being able to swap so seamlessly between melee and ranged. The reason I did this build is because most of the thrown builds I see are either low damage or they use darts, which I feel fulfills a different fantasy. This one comes out with high damage, a lot of versatility, really fun playstyle, and cool control. So I really hope you liked it, and I hope that you'll subscribe for more.